From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I am not Mike Maxson. I am Brandon Gray. Mike is stuck in Orlando, Florida this morning. So some travel delays last night. And as he said, Delta was kind enough to rebook him on a flight for tonight. So he's a full day behind, but I'm sure Mike will be able to figure things out and get back home safely. I'm excited today. So we've got a special guest with us, Stephanie Harris, who is the CEO and owner of PartnerCentric, is going to join us. Guys, you're in for a treat. So you talk about someone who has seen many different aspects of everything from being an executive to purchasing the company, becoming an entrepreneur, building an executive team. Get this, 3Xing the company since she has taken it over. So she's a wealth of information and knowledge. So looking forward to chatting with her. I went back and looked, Stephanie. We've been working together for 14 years.
Yep.
Yeah, we were almost in high school back then.
I know. I was a baby. How could I have been working?
14 years. So we went through some things, no doubt about it. So I'll kind of kick us off here. So for our listeners, they hear the name PartnerCentric. They may or may not be familiar with what you guys do and kind of how you help folks out. So I guess just to give a little context so everyone understands the point of reference you're coming from, take us through a little bit about who PartnerCentric is.
Yeah, so PartnerCentric works with brands from Fortune 50 to well-funded startups to not only build their partnership programs on a performance basis, so think affiliate marketing, but also influencer marketing and other vehicles like that.
And everyone who listens to the podcast regularly knows that we have talked a lot about marketing in the past year and a half. So I'm interested to get Stephanie's takes on that. And, they definitely seeing some of the changes as that industry has underwent significant shifts, especially since AI. So we'll hit on that here in just a second. So let's tell everybody a little bit about the journey. So, you go back in time to when we first started working together about 14 years ago. You were an executive with the company, and now you're the owner and CEO. So kind of walk us through that journey a little bit.
I'll try to be succinct. Feels like a long time ago. So I was the first employee of a business called Chef Consulting, which was a smaller version of what PartnerCentric is now, managing affiliate programs for brands. And I was the affiliate marketing manager for them. And I really helped grow that business. I was promoted into managerial roles and then executive roles. Eventually becoming the CEO of that business. And I did that for 2 years. And then I approached the owners of that business to buy them out and acquire Chef Consulting, which then was called Chef PartnerCentric from an acquisition, and formed PartnerCentric Inc. from that acquisition, and took over all of the employee contracts, took over all of the assets, paid them out a very good price, I think. Took out a small business association loan to do that, and completed that acquisition in May of 2017. So it's been 8 full years since that purchase.
I can remember whenever we were working with the company at the time that Stephanie was the CEO with, and they're like, we're thinking about a transaction, this, and this. And then we find out it's Stephanie's the buyer. And I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. So
I surprised them too.
Yeah. Which, I think there's a little bit of a takeaway there too, in that, as folks who are listening to the podcast today that are entrepreneurs, I think a lot of times we immediately think the exit is going to come from private equity or a potential competitor or what have you. But, if you got somebody who's got that entrepreneurial zeal to them and is an executive with a company, don't overlook them. It can be a great opportunity and a win-win for everyone there. So a lesson in that. So we take over the company. I guess what were things, I know it's been a while back, but what were things as you look back kind of over the history there that were significant events in the company and kind of those crossroads? You're a new entrepreneur and you're like, oh no, I got to deal with this.
Well, I remember when the transaction finalized, I thought I was going to have this big victorious moment, but I actually felt physically ill, which most people don't tell you. It's sort of like, wait a second, like this is real. What did I get myself into? Because there is, even though I bought a business that I knew inside and out and had been with for almost 10 years and had run myself for a few years. And so I really knew the client list, knew the employees, knew the culture, and really had a very defined idea of what I wanted to do with the business, the vision I had for it that propelled me to approach them for an acquisition. I think one thing is to have this idea in your head, and another is, okay, here's the keys to the kingdom. You don't have, other people to blame if things go wrong. You don't have other people to fall back on if you want advice and counsel. Um, and so that, there's a scary feeling in that, but it's been one of the best things I've ever done. I think that being an owner and then having COVID happen put me through a different set of tests, but seeing just how resilient the business is, and certainly working with you, Brandon, and having like the monthly meetings where we really look at the good, bad, and ugly of the finances, and there's no hiding from numbers, and then you just make decisions. I think that actually has given me a lot of confidence in the decision making that I have to make. It can be a lonely job.
Right.
Um, but just having trusted advisors has been the biggest learning lesson. Like, you're not on your own. You just have to know the kind of resources to surround yourself with.
All right, great point. I know, as Stephanie mentioned, she works with us. She has an executive coach that also works with herself and with her team. They've used different subject matter experts throughout the history of the company in different areas. So I think it's a great point for everyone to take away of, there's help out there. You just you sometimes got to look for it, but there are folks to bounce ideas off of. And, sometimes whenever there's a part of your business that needs to level up just a little bit, there's a subject matter expert that can definitely help with that. So along that journey, the company's obviously grown substantially. Like I said earlier, 3x from kind of where it started. Talk a little bit about changes that you've seen as the company has grown with your team. So from kind of where it was several years ago to some of the changes that you made and why you needed to make those to kind of where it is today.
So when I started Partner Centric, I had a vision that there were a lot of investments that I wanted to make based on just living and breathing in the industry that I felt I couldn't make as a CEO, but not an owner. And I started that fairly quickly. So investments in technology, investments in leadership. I really up leveled my leadership team over the last few years. A business that's bumping against, smaller dollars hits a ceiling unless you start to harvest new talent, new differentiators. And then at the same time, the world is changing around you. So you have to adapt while you're trying to scale and maximize the current core business. So over the last year and a half, 2 years, we really up leveled our talent. We've brought in new external talent that works in spaces that we historically hadn't worked in, on the influencer side, now on the AI side, and sort of recognizing that not everything has to be homegrown. That was a big part of the entrepreneurial journey, was this idea when we were smaller. Okay, well, if we want to build this differentiator, we're going to build it from scratch, and then just seeing how long that takes, and developing our talent recruitment vehicle to the extent that we had the confidence to go out there and look for the right person or people and bring them in, and not just try to develop a certain skill set that would be better left to recruit.
Great point there. And we've talked a little bit about on the podcast before, as companies grow and as industries change, that happens much quicker than human beings, their ability to be able to change and grow. And so I think Stephanie and Partner Centric is a great example of, realizing at certain points in time of we need to go add this subject matter expert, bring them onto the team. We're not going to be able to continue to grow and hit our goals if we don't perhaps acquire a different skill set from the outside than what we have internally, even from a management perspective. So I think there's a great lesson in that. And I will add a caveat to that. Along the way, we did forecast out the impact of all these changes. So don't just go into it blind with and hope, of like, okay, we think this can work out. Stephanie's always, I'll get an email from her before a call and she'll say, hey, we're thinking of this, put it in there and let's see where we got to grow to be able to afford all of this and make the change. And they've done a great job of being able to do that. Let's talk a little bit about the changes that you guys have faced. So I'm sure there are industries and I'm sure there are companies that have had to undergo more changes than you guys, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. It is a different ball game in the affiliate marketing world and the marketing world just in general from, 10 years ago. So kind of speak to some of those significant changes that have taken place and how you guys were able to respond to them and really kind of meet the market where it is and where it's going.
Well, COVID was a tremendous shift. I was a shift for every business. That was the first major one I can think of that really disrupted everything. We went from going into planning meetings and here's our top 5 core customers and we do great work with them. And, you know, they give us 5 stars on everything and those customers disappear overnight because they freeze up during COVID and you're having 2-a-day meetings with your leadership team about, what is the fresh Al today that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And, you have to pivot on a dime. And we did a lot of restructuring of the resources in the business to bring them closer to revenue. How do we harness the dollars that we spend on labor to generate more return? And that was really the first time that we had looked at things like that in that lens because we had to. It wasn't just like, okay, we gain or lose a client here or there. We're growing at a decent clip. It was sort of like this, we really need to take a look at what are the essentials, how should we be utilizing the resources we do have to pivot. And so we accelerated the technology around that time. We saw a tremendous amount of sales growth in 2021 because a lot of businesses were looking to spend their PPP, or they were new businesses that were looking to start after COVID. And so we definitely saw a big influx of interest from that. And then that quickly shifted in 2022, 2023 with a change in interest rates and a lot of the well-funded startups starting to freeze up their funding. And so you sort of pivot again, and you'll appreciate this, Brandon, but I tell people that when they ask about the portfolio of clients that PartnerCentric has, I'll say, well, it's sort of like the balance sheet. It sort of changes on a day. It's a reflection of what goes on in the world. If we're doing our job right, we want to go where interest is. We want to make sure we're there for that conversation, wherever that conversation is happening, whichever brands are able to participate in that conversation. And from there, I would say, like, obviously the biggest change for all of us in marketing and for companies is what's happened over the last year and a half with AI. I actually think that that's been a huge opportunity. I know colleagues of mine that are scared, but I was of the opinion that this is actually the most exciting thing that's ever happened in marketing because it resets the playing field for everyone. And affiliate marketing is sort of the feeding ground for the LLMs, for the large language models like GPT and Perplexity and Gemini. And it has opened up a whole new world of services for us in terms of, visibility of our brands on those engines and how to get them cited there. And, I'm excited to ride this next wave.
A lot in that, a lot of nuggets. A couple of things that stood out was, having the ability and the vision to realize when something's changing in your industry. So, few things are going to stay the same. And, I'm kind of looking at it just kind of, she's going through that, reliving some of the conversations that we had. And there has been a massive difference in, maybe who those top 10 clients were 5, 7, 8 years ago and who those top 10 are now, and the types of services that are delivered and the price point at those services and how we went about acquiring those customers. And, just the entire business has really shifted and changed across that point in time. and it's going to continue. And I think that's a lesson for everyone else listening. You may think your industry's stable and that it's not going to change. And then out of nowhere, bam, something shifts, something happens. Either your competitors bring something different to the table, or technology shifts or changes. You got to always have an open eye to, yeah, that might be who we were and who our ICP was 6 months ago, but it's not it anymore. And make sure we stay nimble. Stephanie mentioned something in that journey I want to hit on, and this may be a little painful, Stephanie, so just a heads up. Technology. So I guess, what was it, 21 or so, you guys really kind of started to say the industry's changing. We need to invest heavily in technology, software programs, those kind of things. It's been a journey. So what are some lessons that you guys have learned as you've made those investments in technology?
I think technology is sort of like construction in your house. I think we've talked about this, where you have one idea, one price point, and there's scope creep, and there's problems with contractors, and there's all of a sudden you spent a lot of money, you're not sure where it went, and you're not sure what you've built. We patented our technology right after I started Partner Centric, because that was one of the main visions I had. And it's sort of like, people will say that you create something with one idea in mind and it actually takes on a different meaning. So with our influencer division now, that technology is taking on a different life. But I think we've learned a lot in what we had developed and the way in which we did it. So if you're not a developer, if you're not a coder, and you're not in 2026 when you can vibe code in your basement for an hour and put a whole thing together, it could take years and a lot of money. And we probably should have done more market testing before continuing to invest. I mean, if anyone out there is looking to build technology or software, I think it's cheaper and easier than ever to do small pilots, small prototypes, and see what the market feedback is. I think with our technology, for a long time, we had this idea, and then we were trying to be convinced of that idea by all the feedback that we received, as opposed to just, where is the product market fit and where are the dollars that will come from it. And I think that having a less emotional attachment to these things is probably for the best.
Great advice. And I think there's one, Stephanie didn't mention this, but one thing that they did in the process is, the investments were continuing to be made, and you're kind of looking at the progress going, something's not equaling here. We're paying a lot more than what I'm seeing coming out the other end. So they brought on a third party to kind of do some looking around into what was being developed and what it was costing them, somewhat of an, I guess, loosely, somewhat of an audit. And, they had some findings around, yeah, you may not be getting what you're paying for here. And that pushed them to shift and kind of change some things.
Yeah.
So, don't think you're, even in software development, you may have found a great partner. But at the same time, you want to make sure that everybody is, has the same expectations, and that you're going to get a return on your investment. Because in the words of Greg Crabtree, there's one thing a developer does not know, and that's the definition of the word finished.
For sure. Oh, that's painful. But, I haven't stopped developing things. We just shifted focus and smaller scope and smaller budget, and really utilizing the abilities of today to do things in a much shorter time frame and put it out for market. Like, just learning those hard lessons and not repeating it. The lesson wasn't, don't do anything new, don't put anything out to market. Innovation is a core principle that we have, and that's part of why I bought the business, is because I wanted to do different things and have the freedom to do that. It's just with a different set of guidelines.
Takes a little bit of grit,
Yeah,
definitely,
and a lot of Pepto-Bismol. Let's die for it.
Gotta have both. One other thing. So for those that listen to the podcast, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with our concept of labor efficiency ratio, LER. If there's one thing Simple Numbers is known for, it is LER. For those of you that this may be your first time listening to the podcast, go back and look. There's probably half a dozen episodes about labor efficiency. Check them out, because this is perhaps one of the top drivers whenever it comes to your business. So of all the clients I work with, Partner Centric is one of them that is just, a bulldog when it comes to labor efficiency. We look at it, we talk about it. We've done presentations to the team on it. You know, we beyond just reporting on here's the number, a lot of great questions from Stephanie and her team about, well, what do we got to change? Because this is not the LER we want. And Stephanie's done a great job of challenging her team to say, I know this is where history has said our LER is at. And I know what Brandon has said about maybe this is as high as we can get, but I believe we can get it higher, and set that goal and then challenge the team to find a way to get there. And they're on their way to doing it. I mean, it's amazing, you know. And so tell us a little bit, Stephanie, just kind of about how you use LER, the thoughts that you guys have around that in terms of making it active and real in your company.
So we are an agency. So our largest expense and asset is labor. And I think for a long time, the conversation internally was, well, our LER will go up when our revenue goes up. But I started to feel very frustrated by that a long time ago, because that's not actually evaluating the efficiency of your labor. That is saying, well, when we grow, then our labor will become more efficient.
Right.
But that's not something that you're necessarily controlling with your labor, unless your labor is all tied to sales, which it wasn't. And so then the conversation started to transform into, how do we make the things that we do more efficient, more innovative? This is a way to measure how much better we're getting at delivering service, at providing a return for our clients, at, you know, running a more innovative, efficient machine. It shouldn't always stay the same rate.
And so a few things that have helped with that. Technology has been one that has helped, obviously. The other thing I would say, and kind of reflecting on some conversations that we had in the past, was looking at your team skill sets and do we have the right people doing the right things? And then you got to combine that to, well, what is the market needing? You know, and really kind of challenging systems and processes around, when you look at in the agency world, and it's just like any other professional services organization, challenging those conceptions around, well, there's only so much revenue or so much client contact that one person can manage. Well, that might be the case in how you're currently delivering, but what if you change the way you delivered? You know, so just, we had a ton of conversations around all of that. And it is, I'm telling you guys, it is amazing, the change in labor efficiency. And I'm not saying from it was bad to get it to just be good. I'm saying it was great to get it to an entirely different level.
Yeah.
And so great stuff there.
Thank you. And I was going to say, Brandon, as part of that, you know, if you have a team that's been doing things a certain way for a long time, there's a certain inertia that people have to just stay, like, that's what they're used to. That's what they want to stay doing. And as a founder or a CEO or the head of a business, you know, it's our job to sort of shine a light on that, even when it's uncomfortable, and say, like, no, this has to be different, because we have to grow as a business, and that's not getting us there. And that's not always popular.
Yep.
So again,
Complacency.
having a trusted advisor is very important, because you need to have a sounding board to make sure you are still sane.
I got one more question and we'll wrap it up, Stephanie. So partner centric is the OG of a remote workforce. Long before COVID, before working remotely was cool, they were doing it. So what are a few lessons that you've learned? As I would say, most teams probably have a hybrid environment. Some may be completely remote, but just as you manage a remote team across the country, what are some things that you guys have done to kind of help make sure everyone's producing as they need to produce, and also at the same time building a little bit of culture along the way?
Culture is number one. Culture has to be an intentional work. It doesn't just happen. You need to define what you want your culture to be, and then you need to put the work in every day, every week, every month, every year to reinforce that. You have to hire and fire based on your values. You have to be willing to fire people, even if they're strong producers, if they're not a culture fit. That is the same remote as it is in person, but it's in some ways even more important in remote, because the signals are not always as obvious, but are just as destructive. And remote work has a lot of the same challenges that being in an office has. You get burnout, you get absenteeism, you get quit and stay, you get all those, the great resignation happened to us just like it happened to everyone else. Working remote used to be like a key differentiator for us, and we were able to attract different types of talent because it was not a common thing. I certainly stayed at Shaft much longer than maybe I would have if it wasn't a remote job, because I needed that at the time and there wasn't that much out there. But now it's not. Now it's much more common. And even so, we retain people for a really long time because we make sure we do virtual retreats. We make sure we do regular education programs for the team. So if they're not able to get to a conference or something like that, we bring in expert guidance. Like you were mentioning, we did a whole thing on LER for our team. We kind of have a schedule of learning, and we have like our Tuesday chats, which is like an all hands, but we change up that agenda every week. So we're either learning something, we're working on something, we're just shooting the breeze. Culture is very important, and also making sure that people are re-recruited, that they feel like they're being invested in.
Good stuff. I think you guys probably got a ton of nuggets from this. I know I did. It was great to chat, Stephanie. It's been a great journey along the way. 14 years of kind of seeing a lot of wins and going through a lot of challenges, and I think the best is still yet to come. If you guys, we got a lot of folks that are probably listening. If you guys use affiliate marketing, or you're thinking about using affiliate marketing or influencers, it is pretty easy. You just need to call Partner Centric. I mean, they are the folks that they are going to be ahead of the curve whenever it comes to the service delivery, the care that they're going to give you, the technology that they use, the process in doing it. So, I mean, they're the leader. So if you want to learn more about that, get in touch with myself or get in touch with Stephanie. I'm sure that you can find her on LinkedIn and at Partner Centric website as well. So thanks again, Stephanie.
Awesome.
So that'll wrap it up for the Profitability Playbook podcast. I know why Mike struggles with that every time now. He's the one who always has to say it. Profitability Playbook podcast. I'm Brandon Gray. Thank you again, Stephanie Harris, and Mike will be with us if he gets in from Orlando on the next one.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business, or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.